Sit back and throw one back with your pinky in the air and a middle finger to the world and join me, the eclectic gentleman Stephen Watts, as we look back on this day in pro wrestling history. But before we do, put that drink down, like, share, and subscribe, and without further ado, let's get our wrestling history on. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, it is June 21st, and we're going to start off as we always do on a positive note. That's right, these are your pro wrestling birthdays. 1955, one of my biggest what-ifs, Jay Youngblood. 1979, he's not just a teacher, he's a great commentator, Matt Striker. Of course, on the flip side of that coin, your pro wrestling deaths for June 21st. 2015, legendary women's wrestler, Cora Combs. Alright, enough of the sad stuff. Let's get to the meat and potatoes. That's right, these are your pro wrestling history highlights for June 21st. Jumping in the Wayback Machine and starting in 1934, where we see Francisco Aguayo defeat Martinez Larea in Mexico City, Mexico, for the Mexico National Heavyweight title. Leaping ahead 8 years to 1942, Ciclone Velez defeats Jack O'Brien to win the Mexico National Welterweight title. Making a quick pit stop in the 50s, 1957, Pepper Gomez and El Medico defeat Duke Kamoko and Tokyo Joe in Houston, Texas for the NWA Texas Tag Team titles. Grooving into the 60s, 1963, Pepper Gomez defeats Bill Watts to win the NWA Texas Heavyweight title in Houston, Texas. Jumping ahead 2 years to 1965, Stan Stasiak and Harya Suzuki defeats Pepper Gomez and Shag Thompson in Portland, Oregon for the NWA Pacific Northwest Tag Team titles. Making 2 stops in 1969, first, Paul DeMarco defeats the professional Doug Gilbert for the NWA Georgia Heavyweight title in Atlanta, Georgia. Our second stop in 1969, Johnny Walker and Bearcat Brown defeat the Great Mistifo and Dante to win the Mid-American version of the NWA World Tag Team titles in Chattanooga, Tennessee, ending Mistifo's and Dante's second reign. Grabbing my bell bottoms to make 2 stops in 1971. First, Don and Al Green win the Mid-American versions of the NWA Southern Tag Team titles for a 7th time, defeating Tojo Yamamoto and Jerry Jarrett in Memphis, Tennessee, ending their 3rd reign. Our second stop in 71, Tarzan Zora defeats Jose LeDuc to win the International Wrestling Association International Heavyweight title. Our final stop in the 70s, 1978, the Mongolian Stomper wins an elimination match in Knoxville, Tennessee to win the vacant NWA Southeastern Heavyweight title, beginning his 2nd reign. Grabbing my boombox and going to the 80s, 1980, the Great Kabuki and Killer Carl Cox defeat Bob Brown and Pat O'Connor to win the NWA Central States Tag Team titles. Moving ahead 1 year to 1981, Dusty Rhodes defeats Harley Race for the NWA World Heavyweight title in Atlanta, Georgia, ending Race's 6th title reign and starting Rhodes' 2nd run with the belt. This would begin Rhodes' longest NWA World title reign, lasting almost 3 months. His first and last reigns were 1 and 2 weeks, respectively. 1982, the Junkyard Dog defeats Bob Roop for the Mid-South North American Heavyweight title in New Orleans, Louisiana, starting his first run with the belt. Making 2 interesting stops in 1984. First, the Uptown Boys, Marty Jannetty and Tommy Rogers, defeat the Grapplers, Len Denton and Tony Anthony, for the NWA Central States Tag Team titles in Kansas City, Kansas. At the same show, Ted Oates defeats Luke Graham to win his 2nd NWA Central States Heavyweight title. Our second stop in 84, Steve Gray defeats Danny Collins for the British Welterweight title. Our final stop in the 80s, 1985, Sergeant Slaughter defeats Larry Zbyszko to win the AWA America's Heavyweight title in Chicago, Illinois. Grabbing my flannel and going to the decade of grunge, 1992, Villano III defeats The Killer for the UWA World Junior Heavyweight title in Mexico. Moving ahead 1 year to 1993, Owen Hart defeats Papa Shango for the USWA Unified World Heavyweight title in Memphis, Tennessee. On the same show, New Jack and Homeboy defeat Rex King and Steve Dahl for the USWA Tag Team titles, ending King and Dahl's fourth reign. And last but not least, 1994, El Pantera defeats El Felino to win the CMLL World Welterweight title in Mexico, beginning his second reign and ending Felino's second. Those were your short but sweet pro wrestling history highlights for June 21st. I'm the Eclectic Gentleman, Stephen Watts, and we'll see you tomorrow.